Hello and welcome to Season 3, Episode 17 of Fabrically Speaking Live. I'm your host, Clare Rowley, inventor of the Creative Feet line of sewing machine products. And today I'm going to show you how to make a napkin. I was asked to do that last week if I had more time. You guys wanted me to show it, so I thought, well, that'd be a good place to start off this week. And I'm so happy to see all of you here. Maria from Alabama and Better Days from Arizona, also known as Amy. So Doggy from Florida. Rianne Newton from the UK, New Wales. Welcome to my feed from Arizona in the great old US of A. Hi from Laughlin, Nevada. Susan. You know how hard it is to pick out fabric when you want to do something? It's easier if you don't have very many different choices, but I've got some choices. Hello, Stephanie. So you have different types of fabrics can be used for napkins. And I have made some out of gabardine type of material, like pants or suits type of fabric. This is another camera angle for the front. I'm not sure what you guys think of it, but this is what we usually do. I'm way far away and going, hi everybody. So I thought I'd add another camera angle. Oh, so brave. And then I broke something, and then I was able to fix it just by the hair of my chinny chin chin. That's what I get for trying to change things without my son's permission. So sometimes fabric can be too heavy to use as a napkin, and you want it to be comfortable. You're warmed back up, no more snow. Is everybody snow free? And I hope you all had a wonderful Easter. I enjoyed mine so very much. These are some of the fabrics that I thought would be pretty for napkins. Of course, I love my greens. I just had to sneeze. Sorry about that. That one snuck up on me. Weird. This is currently April 21st of 2022 if you're watching. And it is not that date. You're watching on the replay. And if you type in the comments, it's not live. It's only live if you join us live every Thursday at 2 o'clock Mountain Standard Time. Pretty fabrics, huh? I also thought this one would be good, but you know how quick it would show your food? So maybe not for this. All right, too many choices makes Claire slow. You have the same dark blue? Oh, I love it. So sometimes you want a single layer, and sometimes the fabric doesn't look good on the back. It only looks good on one side, so then it's better to back it with another fabric. You can back it with the exact same fabric, wrong side to wrong side, and fuse them together to create a double-sided napkin. And when you do that, what you do is you actually eliminate the bias in your fabric, which is super helpful when you're trying to do a satin stitch on the raw edge of the fabric. If you've ever tried to sew a satin stitch on the raw edge of a piece of fabric before and had it curl up and look messy, raise your hand. Share your experience with everybody else. And hi, Eileen. Nice to see a Facebook in the chat, so I know you guys are in there. One of the other things I like to do when making napkins is spray starch my fabric. Spray starch is another way of stabilizing fabrics or controlling the stretch in the fabric, and that stretch is created by the bias of the weave of a woven fabric. So if you got the Satinedge foot and you tried to do a square making a napkin and you didn't succeed at going cross grain, it's because the fabric has behavior that we need to tame. Oh well, that one's on the floor. I guess we have a winner here. What I thought I'd do is try something with you guys for the first time and see how it goes. Because you guys are my guinea pigs, right? There we go. So we'll pretend this is a itty bitty little napkin here. Could be a coaster. We may as well not waste fabric. Could have some lightweight coasters to match the napkin. Let me iron this. Did you all have a nice Easter weekend? I went to our local lake for a celebration outdoors. It was lovely. There we go. When you actually have to cut out napkins, think of this as a much bigger piece, and we're going to make a bunch of napkins out of a piece of fabric, and we want all the napkins to be the same size. And if we want to make them double-sided. Let me see something. I think those go really well together, don't you? Pretty, pretty. And I was like, I thought I'd let you guys help me choose the thread color and wait for you to actually approve before I choose for myself. Hi Sharon Kaysen, welcome. Can't remember where you're watching from. I pretty much couldn't find a thread that I liked as much as that one with this mint green fabric, which it does have mint green going through there, so it'll contrast real nicely with that. But I was like, well, maybe that one goes, or I could even go dark and try to find that blue color, or go with one of, there's so many choices on this fabric. Tennessee. Oh, it's so much fun to have Easter with children. So what do you think? Should I stick with green? Or should I bring in some other colors for you guys to choose from? Last time my thread color was too light and you guys couldn't see it. I think I'm just going to go with the mint green. You guys like it, right? All right, we agree. I like it when we agree. Okay. But if I could have found a blue that matched one that I have under the Invisifill type, I would have been putting that one out as well. Then we would have all had a debate. So if I do a single-sided napkin, it's more challenging for the fabric. We have to stabilize the fabric in such a way to lock the stretch that goes across the grain. That stretchiness across the grain is your enemy when you sew. And you have another way that your fabric stretches. You have the way that you stretch it and it doesn't stretch at all. That is with the grain, and it's the selvage side. So if you have selvage running along the side, this side here will be really easy to sew. But as soon as you go across the grain, then the fabric will start to stretch. And that is why so many of you fail at doing a square piece of fabric with any type of a hem, including rolled hems, because the fabric wants to stretch. So I was sleeping again. You know, I don't sleep when I sleep. And last night I was inspired to try the liquid-based glue. Sorry, someone just tried to call in. Would have liked to have taken that call too, but not the appropriate time. Okay. So I was hoping to have another piece of this big enough to do this. All of a sudden, it turned off my video that I was watching. So I couldn't hear myself, and I went into a little bit of a panic. I was thinking about creating a pattern with a variety of different ways that you can finish the edge of napkins. What do you guys think? Would you like a pattern where I give you not just different ways of finishing the edge of patterns, but also patterns to make your corners pretty, so that when you roll up your napkin, you have a pretty little applique perhaps in the corners, or just creating a not traditional shaped napkin so that you can level up your decorating and have a more original appearance. Give me a thumbs up if you like that idea. The stabilizer that I use to fuse the fabrics together is the Fuse and Fuse stabilizer. And I really need to add the next size for this, because we are going to have it an 18-inch width, which I thought I had one in here. And since I don't have it on my site yet, it's only fair that I show you how to handle it if you don't have a bigger one, because this is not the full width of the napkin, and I like a 14-inch napkin. If you have little tea parties, you can make smaller napkins. It's really entirely up to you. So if I were to try to iron my stabilizer onto my napkins before I cut them out, or after I cut them out, it's harder. Pretend I have a much bigger piece of fabric here. In my napkins overall, so this is a 14-inch napkin. So you can position a bunch of 14-inch napkin onto a big piece. If you have the large piece fused together before you cut, then each napkin will have the fusible, and the top and the bottom of your fabrics will be all lined up perfectly, so you won't be at risk of melting this onto your iron. And that is what I would recommend. I just so happen to not have a big piece here, so I'm just going to make one napkin. You like to have an original looking project. I agree. So how far? I was trying to make a couple coasters at the same time, but I think this is 14-inch. Might be bigger. Yeah, that's 16 inches. So if I cut 2 inches off of that, I should be able to make some little coasters to go with it. I think that would be nice. It is more challenging to turn a 90-degree corner with the Satinedge foot than it is to follow a curve. A lot of you may think, oh, curves are hard. What do you mean that's easier? It actually is a lot easier to just maintain a curvy shape. Have any of you found it is a lot easier than you ever thought possible to follow curves after using the Satinedge foot? And that is the foot that I'm going to use today. There's a tear on this, so this will be used for another project. If you do not have my Satinedge foot, it is a different foot than the satin stitch foot. And it makes it so much easier to do projects like this. So if you've ever felt like you were just not good enough, it's probably your foot was not good enough, not you. And I have decided to go ahead and do some audio or video, because I keep getting asked to do this. Some videos that will be for you to build your confidence. They'll be more like just me talking with music, meditative kind of stuff, to deprogram you from your disbelief that you can achieve some of these things. Some of you don't feel challenged at all. You're good at all that you do, and that's wonderful, but the majority of the people that I've experienced with have self-doubt, and it's what holds us back from having fun. The magic foot, yes. And I'm like this close to having our feet available for those of you in Canada and the UK. So the Creative Feet will be coming to your Amazon location very soon. And we are going to also add the stabilizers as well, so that you guys can save on shipping. You know, when I invented the Satinedge foot, I was just designing it for someone who was blind, so that she could do the things that we were doing with sergers. And it happened to be right when everyone started making napkins with overlock machines. When the baby lock machine came out, the very first baby lock overlock. And I was teaching people how to make the napkins on that. Our feet do attach to all sewing machines. All you need is a zigzag stitch. And this is our 33rd year fitting all machines. There is some confusion out there, because a lot of people just think we make all generic feet, but we don't. I'm the inventor of these, and we only have 3 feet. And that is as of April 21st, 2022, because you never know what I got cooked up. So we have the snap-on foot has a 7mm wide snap-on bar. That doesn't mean those of you who have 9mm wide snap-on bars can't put our feet on, like the Janome machine. You can. You can use our B adapter, put it on our foot, take your snap-on adapter off your machine, and then you can just snap our feet right onto your machine. And if that sounds tiresome or cumbersome to have to change your settings or change your adapter, know that you don't have to change it very often, because Satinedge all by itself, which is partly why it's called the magic foot, which you can thank Bob, one of my customers and fans, and one of the students I taught at a store where we had 120 something students. He renamed this the Magic Foot and caused a whole bunch of confusion. So if you've heard of the Magic Foot, it's Satinedge. And the reason I named it Satinedge is because it was designed to sew a satin stitch right on the edge of a piece of fabric. And then it became very popular in our area, and I was located in Woodland Hills, California, for any of you that may be watching from California. Forgot what I was saying. I started reading the chat and I lost my train of thought. So it turns out that when I designed the foot, it only fit one machine. And so many people were being told about it because you can let go of the fabric and it just kept sewing on the edge of the fabric without you having to touch it. So, you know, it's hard not to tell somebody when you see something like that. But I couldn't get it to fit all machines until I made it adjustable. And once I made it adjustable, it then went from just doing a satin stitch on the edge to doing top stitching, edge stitching, pin tucking. And when I say all these feet are feet you don't have to buy. So if you have all of these extra feet that I'm going to list, you don't need them, because a Satinedge foot, by just adjusting the guide's position or the stitch that you're using, its width, its length, and the pattern of stitch that you're using. Geez, this is taking a lot longer than I expected. Then you don't need to keep changing feet, because our foot just changed by changing its position and the machine settings. It in essence becomes a new foot, a different foot. And those lists of feet that you never need to buy, and if you've already bought them, I'm sorry about that. But top stitching, edge stitching, pin tucking, invisible applique, stitching in a ditch, charted needle design without the use of knitting needles, cut work without the use of a hoop, wire edges, fishing line edges, lettuce edging, trapunto applique, blanket stitch applique, edge joining, t-shirt hemming, 1/8 inch, 1/4 inch, scant 1/4 inch seam allowances. It also helps you sew binding on without having to do any hand sewing. And you could go around a fabric bowl with a satin stitch and go only one time around. You don't have to keep going around more than once to cover up all the stitches. I had to take take my voice out of my ear for a minute to do that list. And that's because when I used to do shows, I would just rattle off all those things. Got to make sure it's cool before you peel off the paper. It snowed all day in Iowa on Easter. Do you know, I'm 59 years old and I don't believe I've ever experienced anything but perfect sunny skies, perfect temperature on Easter. Maybe one time it rained for a little bit. I feel very blessed. The benefit of living on the West Coast area. So I'm peeling back this paper release liner. And this is our Fuse and Fuse stabilizer found at creativefeet.com. Give you a little glimpse. When you go to, this is my school, my free online school, but right now I'm showing you Creative Feet. And inside of creativefeet.com we have products and then stabilizers. This is the stabilizer page. Fuse and Fuse is the one that I'm using right now. And so the names say what they do. Fuse, and then you fuse again. This is Fuse and Stick, which has some neat features to it as well. Stick and Tear for embroidery, and my dad invented that. He's the inventor, the first one to ever make an adhesive back tearaway stabilizer, and the only one that doesn't gum up your sewing machine needle. These two are temporarily sold out. I'm thinking probably 4 more months before we get that in. If I say the worst news, then you'll be excited if it comes out sooner. Cover Up is a top-rated product to help your embroidery stitches lift up over fabrics and gives you pure colors with your thread, eliminating having to reduce your stitch count down too short. Hold Light is used frequently. I use it for a variety of different things, including backing fabrics for applique and backing fabrics for embroidery. This is so you can attach towels to our Stick and Tear without it pulling out loops from the towel. The Hold Light holds the towel lightly, locking the bias and covering up the loops, and then it sticks to the stick and tear, and then when you go to remove it from the hoop, the stick and tear is stuck to the hold light instead of the towel, which gives you a beautiful end result. Like you see here, this towel I did recently, and it tears it completely away. The towel is protected. The hold light is on the other side of that stick and tear stabilizer. So it doesn't pull out any of your loops on your towels. Okay. The fuse and stick. The stick and stick will stick to your hoop. It'll stick really securely to your hoop. So how can you handle using that? You can either hoop our stabilizer in your hoop with the paper release liner still on it, or you can hoop some regular fusible or regular tearaway stabilizer into your hoop, cut a window, and then patch it with our stick and tear, because our stick and tear does adhere to other stabilizers, including itself. So you can patch with it as well and save you a lot of money doing that. So that was just too noisy to do, so I'm going to peel this off. The fuse and stick is a fusible that's sticky on one side when you're done. I usually save these, especially long strips of this, as a pressing cloth to use later. At some point, I can't keep saving it. I am going to be bringing out my big embroidery machine soon. I hurt myself recently. Just gonna tell you all, because I'm behind on some things, so that you forgive me. But I hurt myself. I hurt my thumb, and so I'm not functioning that well with this thumb. You can print on the hold light by taping it to a piece of inkjet printer paper. So now this whole fabric is fusible to another piece of fabric. So the baby lock that I have in the closet is the Destiny. And I was going to pull it out, but I hurt myself, so I couldn't. That thing weighs a lot. And then I'm going to show you how to hoop. And I'm going to do an embroidery, like maybe tandem, have the machine embroidering and me embroidering with the Octi-Hoops, showing you how the processes are similar, so that you know what to do. And if you don't know what an Octi-Hoop it is a hoop for doing free motion that makes it so you can do just about everything you can do with an embroidery machine with your regular sewing machine. So nobody's left out of the fun. So the other way I hurt myself was I went bike riding and I fell off my bike. I didn't do any real serious damage to myself. I think I just need a new bike. I need one that's smaller. I shrunk. I think I shrunk 1.5 inches in height since I bought that bike. And I lost 1.5 inches in length on this arm. When I broke my arm, they had to shorten my arm. So I'm having a hard time getting off the bike. A little embarrassing to say that. I'm going to cut a little bit more of this off. And I have a daughter that does downhill mountain biking. And she's 5'7". And she just goes, "Mom, it's 'cause you're a midget. You need a littler bike." She loves to make fun of her mother. I think that's a little karma coming back to me. Okay, so now I have some coasters over here that I can create. And I have my release liner so that I can iron and not get it on the iron. When I fell off the bike, I was literally stopped. I just couldn't get my foot off the pedal fast enough, and I kind of just went brink. But I ended up with a little bit of a whiplash feeling. And I did it again because, you know, I am who I am. I went for another bike ride and I fell again. So now I'm just recuperating. I hurt my foot when I fell off this last time. I'm embarrassed. I'll tell you what, in my mind, I'm still 20-something. This 59-year-old body is like, who does this belong to? It doesn't belong to me. So we're going to do for the VIPs, the Whatever You Want Claire to Sew Saturday will be the 4th Saturday of the month. So I'm going to try really hard to get some video editing done so we can upload. And the Easter Bunny placemat is going to be a series of videos instead of just one. One of these days I'll design a pattern that isn't as complicated. Now, you're not supposed to agree with my daughter, you guys. You're supposed to be on my side. But, you know, my daughter gets it from me because she does snow biking and mountain biking. And her idea of mountain biking is jumping giant boulders, and I wasn't that bad. How old do you guys feel? Write your mental age down in the group or in the chat so I can see how old you feel. Almost done where I can cut it. So yeah, I'm going to create, one of the things I said in that list was cut work, and we could do a cut work design on a napkin and not even need a hoop, because the Satinedge foot lets you ride along the raw edge of the fabric. I could actually do a little heart-shaped cut work opening. You feel old in your mind, Sharon? Amy, my daughter says that. She's like, you'll never be older than 32 to me, mother. And I'm like, well, okay, I'll keep that in mind when you take me down a river on my paddleboard. She wants me to ride this river on my paddleboard. Last time I did it on a kayak. So I'm trying to get ready for that. I think she would have liked to have had me come for Mother's Day for that. You feel 30, but your body feels 80. Today I felt yesterday I felt like I was in my 90s. I wasn't moving very quick. Ooh, it's hot. Chronologically, 25. She's still 25 in her mind. When I was 25, I already had creative feet. I think I'm going to sneeze again, you guys. 67 and you feel 70. That's not too bad if you compare mine. So what I did was I fused the wrong side of the blue fabric to the wrong side of the mint green fabric. So both sides are right sides facing out when I'm done cutting this. And I'm going to turn some of these into coasters. And I'll probably make myself 4 or 6 napkins. after this. It's a half off today at 30. I like how you wrote that. I had to think, what does she mean? What's half off? All right. I'm trying to get younger. When I figure out how, I'll let y'all know. But I'm doing like this meditation stuff at night. It's really for weight loss, but it's self-esteem, weight loss, and it's fabulous. It's actually brainwashing, or what is that called? Hypnosis. And I'm starting to feel a lot better from watching or listening to that every night. I can share that with you in the school if you guys are interested. I almost just fused this whole thing to my ironing board. All right, let's cut some fabric. For those of you who don't know about the cutter pillar, that's what's on my table here. This is not just a cutting board. It is also a light tablet. And it's a light tablet designed for you to cut on with a rotary cutter. It's more fun to see that from above. I'll give you the top camera angle. So you can kind of see that fabric through. And now you can see how it becomes more and more visible. And that's the fabric on the bottom. So I can see where it's all laid out, and I can cut this without wasting as much. You can also use the mat that has lines on it. This is the edge-to-edge mat that has implied lines. So I don't know if you can see, there's like lines diagonally, 1 centimeter squares going all across in a diagonal. I just sneezed again. We have fires up in northern Arizona, and this is April 21st of 2022. In case you're concerned about us. So I'm a little bit, the air quality is really, really poor today. One of the reasons this mat is called the edge-to-edge mat is because it goes all the way to the edge of the light tablet. It doesn't sit like that. And your rotary cutter would go off and hit that. If you have any of the cutter pillars and your lined mat doesn't go all the way, know that there is a edge-to-edge mat for your tablet so that you don't have to worry about falling off of the mat only to hit your tablet. I can see that I did not cut enough, so I'm going to cut that a little bit better. I really need a bigger ruler. Where's my big ruler? I keep wanting to show you something, but I'm not going to show it to you until we have it for sale. How's the air quality down in Phoenix, Amy? Are you guys getting the smoke down there yet? Somatic therapy. Somatic. I need to look that up. I'm constantly trying to improve my health, keep myself alive as long as possible. I tell my daughter that every once in a while. She goes, I wish you'd stop talking like that. Isn't it better I want to live longer than not? She goes, I just wish you would just not word it that way. Word it another way. Figure another way of saying it. I'm definitely making this bigger than 14-inch. No smoke, really. That's good. Well, I'm all congested because of it, so know that I'm not sick. Thank God for that. Just dealing with poor air quality up here today. And the cottonwoods are releasing the cotton. Do you guys have any cherry blossoms still on your trees, or have they all fallen off? So what I didn't tell you that I did was that I had one fabric going with the grain this way and the other fabric with the grain that way. And that takes all bias out of the fabric. There's no one way it will stretch better than the other anymore. And it'll be a pretty napkin, won't it? And these I'm just going to turn into little placemats. And what I'd like to do is show you how to handle a fabric if you don't have or don't want to back it. So I love that color too. So I'm just going to cut one piece in a good napkin size. And this is just going to be single layer. I'm going to do it smaller because it'll just save time. And I'm going to use spray starch to stabilize this. They're just showing up in Portland. Portland, Maine, or Portland, Oregon? I feel like the East Coast gets them first. So we get a lot of spray starch on here. The more spray starch you put on there and iron, so doing the ironing process and the spraying process repeatedly, instead of just soaking the fabric in starch and drying it with the iron. And if you do this like 5 times, that spray starch will lock that bias in the fabric and reduce its chances of stretching when you sew. My pear tree had a lot of blossoms on it. I need you guys to come up with reasons or things I can make with pears. What can I make with pears this year? Because I think I'm going to have a huge volume of them. I don't have as many people to give them away to. Give them away to the food bank as well, but I made ice cubes out of them. We're not ready to garden here where I live. I'm up in the Prescott area, and we have to wait till May to plant our tender vegetables. So this fabric's already getting more body than it had before, but still not enough. So I'm going to do it again. And this is how you can one way of stabilizing a fabric without using a stabilizer. Jam, pear cobbler. Ooh. I do make jam out of it every year. My dad really appreciates that. You're going to have a drought in South Texas. I've been down there when you had way more water than you deserved. Oh my goodness. I remember heading to the International Quilt Festival, and I had to... They were like, turn around, people were... And I'm like, it looks like the road's clear, so I just kept going. And then there was the water. So a whole bunch of us were turning around, making U-turns on the freeway. One of the years that it flooded there. Half pear with mayonnaise and cheese. What? So she halves a pear, slices it in half, and puts mayonnaise and cheese on it? I would never have thought to ever put those things together. Reminds me of a girlfriend I had that did Monterey Jack cheese and chocolate chips. And she's the one that helped me to learn that peanut butter and mustard actually taste pretty good together. She was from Alabama. I think they do different things there. They go past the norm. Brandied pears. Ooh. What do you do with them after you brandy them? Do any of you know if you can put spinach out when it's still, there's still a chance of freeze? Is it hardy enough, or do I have to wait until we're definitely done with the freeze? All right, Claire, just chop some off. Get going. You eat just brandied pears? Do you get tipsy? Seems like it would make you tipsy. I do like brandy though. I learned that I like that. Something about that. Kind of warms you up. Plant spin. Okay, that's what I thought. This is making me want to do a cooking with Claire session. Mustard and peanut butter. You have to try it. Yellow mustard. I'm telling you, I didn't think it would be good. Oh, and then bananas on it. That's good. I liked it. Okie dokie. Oh, there goes my mom's okie dokie coming out of me. Cookies. Pear cookies. I liked having the ice cubes. I didn't feel like I was wasting any of it. Hollow out the center. I went most of my life with 10 food allergies. And now I can eat all the foods I was allergic to. Peanuts are still something I resist. But I use other nuts for things. And I make ice cream. I did make ice cream out of that, but I use coconut milk or coconut cream instead of milk because my body doesn't like milk. I can have heavy whipping cream, but boy, I think I like gain weight really easy from that. Cottage cheese. I haven't had that in a long time. Pear pie. Oh my. I could do a pear pie. They when the pears are ripe, it's like all the partying is over, and then you have all this fruit, and I think people had a lot of fruit by then. That's correct, Amy. Peanuts are a legume, like the cashew, and those are two things I stay away from. I just don't do well. I used to just fall asleep and didn't know why, and it was peanuts. In other words, I was going into anaphylaxis and didn't know it. If you want to ask me questions about how I got rid of my allergies, feel free to reach out to me in the school privately. I'm hugging you, Tammy. That was my best friend from childhood's name too, Tammy. She was the one from Alabama. So when I say Tammy, I always kind of say it like I'm from Alabama because that's where she was from. She passed away right before she turned 40. All right. I'm done ironing. Turn that off. Okay. I'm not supposed to stay on for 4 hours. We're coming up on an hour and all I've done is iron. That's boring. You don't think I dried my starch? And you can see it's actually kind of curling up on the sides because it's got some stability to it. However, I'm not sure that it's enough, and I can tell by kind of stretching it. If I don't feel, you can hear the sound of it. So pretty much lock that in there. Another thing that we can do is use the liquid-based glue as a stabilizer. So let's see. I'm anything but boring. Oh, you're so sweet. So nice. This is what I dreamt last night. And if you don't know, I do dream inventions and new things. So I always feel as though my ideas are gifts given to me. So if I wanted to have a napkin, not stretch at all, this is a water-soluble stabilizer in a bottle. I'm going to test out my theory or my dream. So if I was going to, I would glue before cutting, which is why I have the light on so I can see the lines through it. And now I can draw. I keep hitting is it the power I'm turning off? Sometimes I tap this cord and it unplugs it. Get it out of the way. I'm a little bit more clumsy with my thumb not normal. And I haven't been able to make pressers for a week. I'm hoping to feel good enough to make pressers tomorrow, but I'm not going to push it. Because part of what's going on is I've had trigger thumb. I keep tearing it. How not to do this is not how not to do it. There we go. So I want to keep it straight on this line, and I'm just going to draw on the fabric. I'm trying to keep it within 1/8 of an inch of that line. And I have a feeling this is going to work really well. And then I'm going to show you how you can do a satin stitch on a fabric with no stabilizer at all, using a silky fabric like scarves. So if you've ever wanted to make a scarf and you thought you weren't going to succeed, things don't stick to an iron with ceramic plate. Ah, yeah. See, I didn't talk and I was able to draw a line of the glue straight. We want to let that dry before I cut, and I'll be cutting right along that edge. While that dries, I'm going to show you the other one. One of the things that people find challenging is turning that corner, so you could round off the corners. And this was my thought, was to create a heart shape on here. So I'm going to fold this. Because I do love hearts. "104 years young." Got good stock. So this is me just trying to make a heart, finding my center. And I'm going to come over here. Just a little implication of a heart. And then come down here. So this is, whoops, that just slid out of my hands. I feel like I need to go down there a little bit, come back up. Of course, I would give you a design to trace onto here so you don't have to sketch it. This will just to give you another idea for your corners. These are the Applique scissors. This is the large scissor, and you put your fingers in like that, so you have all 4 of these fingers have a spot, and then your thumb can just move up and down and can exit the hole, so you won't find your thumb getting stuck on it and having to pull your hand out like that. And also, it eliminates the stress on the top of your hands. How many of you have these? Don't you love them? And here we go. And if you drop your fabric while you're cutting, it won't let the fabric fall out of the scissor. It's another benefit to them. And these come in 3 different sizes, the Applique scissors. There's 2 pairs with the holes, the 3 holes, the medium and the large. And then the small, they all have serrated blades, is for cutting your threads. And we do have them at creativefeet.com under the tools link. And I need to thread the machine. Check this, see if it's dry. It's almost dry. And all that's really happening when the liquid-based glue dries is the water inside of the water-soluble stabilizer that's in the bottle evaporates. And then you're just left with a water-soluble stabilizer right where you want it, instead of having to use it all over something. I almost got to winding my bobbin before I went live, but didn't quite make it. I don't know if I got a deco bob for this. It was a close one. However, deco bob is 80 weight. And when we're doing a napkin edge on a napkin, you want to have a thicker thread, because otherwise you have to sew more stitches. Whenever you have to shorten your stitch length down really, really short, it is harder for the sewing machine to pull that fabric through, and you're more likely to slow down the feeding by putting your hands on your fabric too much. So it's always better to go with a longer amount of thread, or even to wind maybe 2 bobbins of this and put 2 threads through the eye of 1 needle. Or you can buy the double-eyed needle found at creativefeet.com, and you can take 2 threads through. One has its own eye, and the other, there's 2 eyes on the needle. So you would thread 1 thread through the top eye and 1 thread through the lower eye, and then you're laying down 50% more thread or 100% more thread. That means your stitch length can go from a 0.05 to a 0.08 or 9. If you're into making money from your sewing, double eye needles, feeding through 2 threads through on a satin stitch, speeds it up to the same speed as an industrial or as a serger would be for this. And this is something you can use. Our Satinedge foot can be used on an industrial sewing machine. Don't let the fact that they're made out of plastic make you think that they're not strong. In fact, we had 2 people drive over a Satinedge foot with their car. It's one of my favorite stories. There were actually 2 people that did it. They weren't too far apart from one another either in timeline. And I was like, what made you, I forgot to wind a bobbin. What made you drive over? Sorry, but feet don't belong in the driveway. So how did you do that? And she's like, well, I love your thread dispenser, and I never go to class without it. So she put the Satinedge foot on the top of the thread dispenser and walked it out carefully to the car, but the foot fell off. And that's how it ended up in the driveway. And that was for both people. I do have that foot. One of them, I had one of them send it back so I could see it, because I was fascinated to see what a car would do to it. And it was still intact. It's got some road rash, but the foot didn't break. If you do break a foot, one of our creative feet, even if your dog uses it as a chew toy for a little while, we'll give you a new foot. It's part of our warranty. Lifetime exchange guarantee. All right, Claire, this is not that hard. I haven't wound a bobbin in a while. I got spoiled using those deco bobs. Do not hold your bobbin thread until it breaks. Hold it for a little while, then stop it. Then take the little twisting that occurred and untwist it. And then cut the thread right next to the bobbin. And you'll have less trouble when your bobbin runs out. Should you have a machine that lets you use the full bobbin without going, your bobbin's running out. Oh no. Oh, I see what you're saying. I was like, what is this iron or ceramic plate? So it's a plate that you put on the bottom of your iron. You got your light board 2 weeks ago, Margaret? Congratulations. I recognize your name. I think you just sent me an email. I can't remember what, but I almost thought oh, Margaret, you sent a foot in for exchange. So I got it, and it's already been sent to you. But in the future, you should always contact us before, because we just have you take a picture of the foot and email it to us. Save you that shipping. It is you, right, Margaret, that sent the foot? I don't think there's that many of my customers with the last name Bong. It's very unusual. So this is the Polyfast, and this is color number 6584, and it is a mint green color. Very pretty. Bear with me as I'm threading the machine now. a good time to ask questions, you guys. I'm going to ask you one. What is on your sewing table this week? Do you guys have anything on your sewing table? Any project that you're working on? I lowered the foot. Always thread your machine with the presser foot raised. If you don't, the tension discs are not closed, or are closed, and the thread won't go between the tension discs. And I'm going to use an 80-12 universal needle for this. Could use a top stitch needle as well, as it has a, it's good for thicker threads. Bring my bobbin thread up. Oh, some irons come with that. Okay. You know, I love this iron. That's all I can tell you. I've had a lot of irons in my day, as you might imagine. It's been the most reliable of all of them so far. It's just a little noisy. A jelly roll quilt top. Well, this is definitely dry, and it's a good thing because I just set that down on top of it. And I'm going to cut across that while I have the light tablet on, and so I can turn it off. So remember I said glue with an 1/8 inch spread so that you don't have a lot. And I want to make sure that I have some of that on where I'm going to stitch. So I'm going to cut through that glue line, leaving some of it for the stitch to be formed on. You can't even really see it on there, but it's there. For those of you who haven't used our liquid-based glue, it's pretty amazing. So I'm going to go ahead and use it, deal with this one first. Okay, light tablet turned off, so I'm not wasting electricity or the life of the light itself. And when I create napkins, I don't like to start on a corner. If you've ever tried to start on a corner, well, it's harder for the sewing machine. And this is a challenging stitch for any sewing machine. Before you actually start on your fabric, you should start on a scrap. But not just any scrap, one that's actually prepared the same way, with the same stabilizer, you know, so that you're going to experience the exact same thing that you're going to experience on this. A lot of people try to cheat and create, just try something out on a piece of fabric that's laying around with whatever thread is in there, or save money and use thread that's cheaper and fabrics that are cheaper, only to have a really bad experience and then too afraid to even start on the actual project. So always test using the exact same thread, needle, and fabric that you're going to do in your project, and you'll have a much better chance of having success if you do that. Selecting a zigzag width, and I'm going to show you the foot a little bit for those of you who haven't seen it before. Inside of the presser foot, you'll see this little guide wire. It's actually a piano wire, so you can't break it with your sewing machine needle. And you turn the little nut and it moves the position of that in that opening. That opening is limited, so it's not designed for every width of stitch. I'm going to be using, oh, look at that, my snap-on adapter is all loose. That would not have set me up very well. That's not like me. I usually tighten my screws. It was you, Margaret. Okay. You already got it this morning? How's that for a fast turnaround? Tell you what, Margaret, if you didn't put your sticker on that package, I was really concerned because I couldn't read your writing on the thing inside or on outside. I wasn't sure of what I was reading, so I was so excited when I saw your little sticker on there. I'm like, and I knew where to send it. So I'm glad that we were able to satisfy you on that. And the foot that you had was very old, I could tell. So you got the new sporty version. You're welcome. I'm glad that you're using it. It makes me so happy to know that you guys put the feet to good use. Sole plates. Thank you. See, I had the Aliso and I broke it so fast. And it was so I didn't get along with it. But I'll look into that and see if there are others that maybe I like more. So choosing a zigzag stitch, and on this I'm using a 3.5mm wide width. I like that width. That's really what governs what I choose. Then I move the guide over. So the needle is lowered into the machine. So the needle is down, so the eye of the needle disappears in the fabric. Once you can't see the needle, you don't need to bring it all the way down because then you'll have trouble seeing in there. So just once the needle is lowered in the machine, then you turn the nut, moving the guide over. The wire comes over and touches the left side of the needle. Then you turn the hand wheel toward you. And as the needle goes left, and then it comes down right. Now you're going to double check and make sure you didn't actually bend that guide wire. And I need my glasses. I swear I hear angels sing when I put my glasses on. Ah, I can see. It's a lot of silver down there. Can't really see that well. Okay, so left swing on, right swing off, and the guide wire is off the edge of the fabric. It looks a little blurry, doesn't it? Yeah, I can get that to focus a little better. Hold on one sec. That's better. I'm so glad you guys love your creative feet. Want me to do a scallop? I'll do a scallop. Well, I knew one of you would ask that. I gotta take off my shoes. Oh, between sneezing and... Hold on, sorry guys. Thank you for sharing your info on the irons. Okay, so now that I know this is in position, then you can start to sew and test the stitch length now. The stitch length should be tested with your hands off of the fabric so that you know what the feed dogs are doing. And I can see the stitch length is much longer than I like. So it was at 1.4. I'm going to take it below 1. Go to 0.7 and then check it once again without holding on. Still don't like it, so I'm going to go lower. Go to 0.5. Now it's starting to look like I like it. Go a little shorter. 0.4. Now I can even go shorter than that. Let's see here. I think I want it a little wider. The wider you go, the more likely the fabric is to tunnel. So this is when you want to lower your thread tension. I didn't go that much wider, as remember you are limited by the opening on your width, and not all sewing machines are the same. So now I'm at a 0.4. I'm going to go to 0.3. This is when it starts getting dangerous. You start going really short. If you hold on too much, you can stop the fabric from feeding and get a pileup. I would like a mini iron. I definitely would like a mini one. I could even go shorter, but I could also put 2 threads through the eye of 1 needle. Before doing, isn't that pretty? See how it's pretty on both sides. And the fabric is flat, even though that is a single layer of fabric. That's the spray starch working for us. I'll cut a little scallop for you. A lot of you are wondering, oh wait, I glued on those. That's okay. This is just for teaching. I wouldn't go really short on your scallops, or in other words, I wouldn't make your scallops too small. Distance between the bumps. I'm not holding them right. I can't. I'm like, why can't I cut? Because I didn't have my fingers in there. Too much focus on. Okay. In the late 90s, I released them to the world. In 1989, I released them to the sewing industry. And in 1990, first show I ever did was San Diego. Second show, I went up to San Mateo. And then all I know is 1991 was the first International Quilt Festival. And we had 2 cashiers, two demonstrators, my sister and myself. And we had lines going all the way down the aisle and around, and there were other vendors were complaining. I'm lengthening this a little bit. It's a little bit too short. Starting to drag a little bit. Boy, that color looks so off on there. Looks like I'm using black and white almost. It does not like this color, the camera. Okay, so I want you to see how I'm holding my body, which needs your elbow pad. Oh, so much better. I couldn't see it. I was like, where is it? So this is my little bolster pillow pattern. It's free inside the school for all members. So I'm sitting upright and resting this arm as well. Everything is resting, elbows down, shoulders relaxed, and none of this. This is the tendency that most sewers have, is to put their hands down on the fabric and then to move along with it. And that causes pile-ups and spreading of the stitch when you're working with such a short stitch length. If you find that your sewing machine is not giving you a really nice, pretty stitch, it may be how your sewing machine delivers thread to your sewing machine tension. On this machine, they have a horizontal post, but I'm not using it. I'm using my thread dispenser. My thread dispenser is holding the cone of thread You can see it right here. And then it comes up here and then goes to the sewing machine. So there's no interference on the thread at all until it reaches the tension assembly. And that is what makes my stitch quality so much better. One of the reasons. Another reason is I use really good thread. The brand of thread is found at creativefeet.com. It's not the most expensive thread on the market either. Polyfast is the one that I'm using. Isn't it weird? It looks in that one camera, this is like a really pretty salmon color. So it's orangey pink. I think the cameras can't figure it out. I'm glad you like my tips, Kim. I'm full of tips. So elbows down, shoulders relaxed. And so now you can see why you don't see my hands in the camera is because my hands are not there. They're over here, resting my body, ready to assist and not looking like this to try to keep my eye focused on the needle because we don't have to watch the needle. Instead, you watch the white part of the guide, and if the fabric is touching, you don't have to touch it. Remember, I designed this for a woman born blind. She was born blind and deaf. She couldn't see. She never saw anything, so I couldn't say, remember how it used to look when you did this? So I had her just kind of push toward the foot, and even if the fabric buckled like that, she knew that she was in the correct spot. The guide won't let you go past, so you just rest. The only way you're going to have it ever go past is if you have your foot pressure set too low. And I do tell you in the settings your foot pressure. Now something I didn't do that you should do, before you do this, just go to a satin stitch. If you're going to wash something a lot, once the spray starch is washed out of this fabric will become a fabric that can fray. And you can see this is the same brand, how much potential it has to fray. So the best thing would be to actually do straight stitch first. I'm going to go ahead and turn this corner before I explain that a little bit further. So we stop with the needle up, go all the way to the edge, raise the foot, and then pull off the fabric from that guide wire. Then you turn the fabric. And I like to make sure that the thread is to the right of the guide. I didn't quite go all the way off because I have too much stuff in front of me. You can bring the hand wheel, turn the hand wheel to make sure you are in the proper position should you feel insecure at any time. You can increase stitch length if the fabric doesn't feed. It'll help the foot get up. So I'm increasing, going from 0.4 to 0.7. And I still may be too far because I didn't go all the way to the edge is my issue. I have some fuzz blowing around my microphone. It's interesting because we had the cottonwoods. Oh shoot, I forgot to shorten the stitch length. Okay, going back down to a 4. But before I do that, this is what you should do. You should, before doing a satin stitch, and I know some of you want to see the corner. So there's the corner. And it could have been a better corner. So I'm going to switch to straight stitch and do an edge stitch. So now this foot is suddenly no longer a satin stitch foot. Now I'm going to use it with a straight stitch and position the guide away from the needle so that it is within the width of that zigzag stitch. And I would go all the way around before doing a satin stitch. This is going to stop you from having your fabric fray when your napkins are washed. Lower your needle on the corner. It's very important on your scallops because that's bias. But you can see that it does allow me to sew across the bias. This is also known as a stay stitch. But the act of sewing a stay stitch frequently causes your fabrics to stretch. I'm looking all the way around my microphone, so that's why I'm not doing as well as I could be. Got my neck cocked to one side. I'm doing everything I'm telling you not to do. So you should be centered with your needle. I had a little mini Rowenta, but it died. It leaked. I had 3 Rowentas that leaked. And then I dropped my Elisa once and it broke. So I just got frustrated. And I can't tell you how many times I've dropped the one I have now. Still functioning. Single layer of cotton fabric. The only thing stabilizing this is the spray starch. And it behaves now like a gabardine or a shirting, like a collar that already has a stabilizer inside of it. I don't know. Was Tina not here last Thursday? I'm gonna have to call her. She said she had to go somewhere. See, this is how she felt about you, Amy. You guys are starting to become friends. You can't not show up without calling one another. You guys should get each other's email addresses. Now I'm shortening my stitch length. Back, I'm down to a 0.4. So I'm going to go to the scallop. I'm going to shorten it a little more. I think my foot pressure set too low. No, it's fine. Okay, watching the front part of the foot. Pulling the fabric up, not pushing or pulling it through. Following around, you just follow that, keep the fabric always touching the white part of the guide. That is ahead of the needle. So you have a whole ½ inch to adjust should you need to before you're off the edge. Now we're going to go on to the fabric, and when I do this, sometimes I lower the needle and just kind of lift the foot so that it gets up on that fabric. So in as far as the stitch is wide. I feel like I got that thread caught on something. Pull off, turn, place the guide so it sits off the edge. Forgot to shorten my stitch length. Can't remember what Tina was doing. So right here is where I should have lengthened my stitch length. Anytime you feel like pushing or pulling the fabric through, because the foot is sitting part on that thick satin stitch, it's sitting on the satin stitch, and it's tipping. It causes the foot to kind of tip and less of the feed dogs to be in contact with the fabric. So keep that in mind on all your corners to increase your stitch length for a couple stitches. You don't need to do it for very long. As you saw, I started to get too long of a stitch. And then sew. So you see how there's a space there? If I look at the needle, it's too late. So you always want to look ahead of where you're going. And this is, once again, only spray starch that is handling this curve, because I didn't use the liquid base for the scallops, did I? I only used it on the straights. So now instead of continuing on this, I'm going to go ahead and switch to the other napkin. Where'd it go? There it is. And this is the one where I'm going to do a heart. Now on this side, which side would you consider your right side? What I want to do is think, how can I do this without having to stop a lot? So I'm going to start here and go down, come back around, and then I'll just continue. That looked like a good plan. Should I do that, or should I go there, come around? Yeah, go start there. So I'm going to be on the fabric as well as off the fabric. Welcome, Linda. Okay. Set at 3.5 millimeter wide width, and I'm going to decide whether or not I'm going to ride on the line or I'm going to ride to the right of that line. So making a conscious decision ahead of time, pretending the line now is the edge of the fabric. And as I curve around, I'm going to lower the needle in the right swing or outside swing. Got a lot of fabric here. Ignore the sewing machine needle. Just keep watching the white part of the guide. Keep bringing the red line to the white guide. Sorry I did it this way, Amy. Now my hands are on top of the fabric. But it's mostly because there's so little fabric over here. And I'm there as a support, just in case if I need to tap it, not controlling and pushing down and stretching. But I should actually reduce the foot pressure on the top. When you're on the top of the fabric, you want a lighter pressure, because more of the foot is pushing down from above. Stop with the needle, always up, lift, push off the guide, turn, place the guide so it sits off the edge or off onto the right of the line in this case. It's okay to check to make sure your needle is in the correct position. And once again, keep your eye on the red line. It's a real easy addition to your napkin. And now I've fallen to the left side of the line. No, I haven't. I'm doing it right. It felt wrong. Lower the needle. Okay, so now I'm off. Now I'm going to pull off the guide and turn and continue going around, and we'll see how it looks on the back side when I'm done. And I need to check my stitch length or my foot pressure. Put it back to what was before, which was 4. And on my machine, let's see, it's the normal setting, which is 4. Once again, watch the front or the side of the foot. This isn't just your everyday napkin. We're doing a napkin with a heart. You can bring your needle down in the outside swing, lift and pivot. On all the inside corners, you sew in as far as the stitch is wide. So however wide of your width is, that's how far you want to come in. Stop with the needle up, lift, push off the guide, swing the fabric around, lower the foot. Increase stitch length a little bit. Went from 0.4 to 0.7 because I'm on an inside corner and the foot is sitting on that thick satin stitch that you can't see back here, and it's making the foot tip a little. This would happen on any foot. It's a good rule of thumb. Anytime you feel like you need to push, increase your stitch length instead. You're not in labor, you're sewing. I need to shorten the stitch length back down again. I think I went a stitch too far before doing that. Now I'm holding my fabric up again. Keep bringing it around. Needle down in the outside swing. Lift it and swing it around. That helps maintain uniformity in a nice shape on the arch of the heart, which I could have done a little bit more archy. It has to go over that, so I'm lengthening the stitch. Keep your focus. Don't forget you lengthened your stitch to get over the mountain. Once it goes over the mountain, shorten it back down again. I want to cut that one want to see. See, it still looks pretty on this side. So you still have a heart on the opposite side. Shortening that stitch length down to a 0.3. And then it kind of gets boring. But I should have done a straight stitch even though I fused it. And I'm going to show you what I do. Yes, practice your V curves, your inside corners. They're the ones that will take you by surprise. So when you have time to just practice, you could do something with lots of hearts in it. Just iron a bunch of hearts down on fabric and just keep practicing that inside corner. The more you do anything in a short amount of time, the more likely it is to stick, become sticky in your head. Kind of like when I recommend you bind, when I show you the binding technique, I recommend you make about 6 little pot holders and bind them at the same time as you bind a placemat, so that you've done every step of the process repeatedly in a short amount of time, and then it sticks. You're seeing me on the big screen. This is a new camera angle. U3. Hi everybody. Somebody wrote and said, "You're so far away." I wish I could see your face better when we're live, and so I'm giving you a different angle. But now I'm going to go back to the angle which shows you my posture and the elbow pad, so that I'm not hurting my body, because I've done enough of that lately. If you need glasses, wear them. And then, you can rest. There's no reason to be in a stiff body posture just because your foot is on the pedal. Just like when you drive your car, you don't, or maybe I shouldn't even say anything, but with a 10 and 2 o'clock, do you feel the need to always hold on to your steering wheel, or do you sometimes just handle it with one hand? So when you have the opportunity, when you don't have to watch really close because the foot is guiding for you, take that opportunity to rest your upper body so that you can have longer sewing sessions. But don't forget to stand up periodically. About every hour, you should stand up and march, like 20 steps of marching. Left, that kind of get the knees up, get the circulation going, especially women. We need to watch out for blood clots. So always getting up and moving your legs as much as you can periodically throughout the day. If you can't get up and you can lift while you're sitting, do that. Just, we have to stay healthy for one another. Tinkerbell? Uh-oh. Tinkerbell has her summer hairdo on. Wait, am I mad, or did I scare you? She can't hear me half the time. Hey, have you ever? She's never seen it from this angle. Look at that! You were sewing. Were you looking? Look at that! Oh, can you see her? She's watching. Oh, it's so cute. Oh my goodness, that's what Mommy's doing. She's totally focused on it. I wish you could see better. How cute. Let's see. Maybe you can see on the close what she's doing. She's in there. Look, Tink. And then she totally focuses on it. Oh my goodness, what are you doing? All right, get on your chair, baby. Okay, I'm going to do another corner, and then I'm going to show you if you forget and you do a satin stitch first. I usually give them cookies and treats after filming. Today they lined up and got in front of me and they were like doing dances and jumping. It's we know what day it is. Give us our treats now. So I gave them their treat before. So all the way to the end, and then reverse. So hit your reverse button and go back a few stitches. Then you lift, pull off the guide, and then plant my finger and spin the fabric around because we don't want to create a bunch of slack in the thread. But should you accidentally pull and oh no, I have that long piece of thread, what do I do? You just grab up here and pull your thread back to the spool when you do that. And when you do that, you can see the thread will just go straight again. And then drop or lower the presser foot so the guide wire is off the edge again. And you want the thread to be on the right side of the guide. Increase your stitch length. I went from 0.4 to 0.5. That's not enough. I went from 0.3 to 0.5. So going to 0.6. Sew a few stitches, then shorten it back down once you see it feeding. And continue. Just a support system. You're supporting the fabric, not the controller of the fabric. Let the sewing machine, as it's engineered, with the stitch length to pulls the fabric through. There's a reason there's stitch length numbers so that you can count on that number being a certain spacing or distance. And isn't that a beautiful corner? That's what happens when I'm sitting properly. Get a nice pretty corner. And you continue. It's a good time to ask questions should any of you have a question, and questions lead to me maybe doing that next week on the show. I can't wait to see the quilt you're making, Ellen. Which grandson is it? What's his name? And hello and welcome. And welcome, Madeline. Yeah, I don't know who I would be without my dogs. But you can see it does take longer with a sewing machine than it does with a serger to travel, but it does, in my opinion, it looks prettier. Excuse me. If you want the bottom to be more full, you can use woolly nylon in your bobbin. I got one of my little threads caught, and it's unraveling it all the way down. She posted her picture in the school. So you go to the school is linked at the top of the chat. create.clarerowley.com. That's where everyone posts pictures of their work. And I didn't get it fused down here. And so, oh no, what do? First person to tell me what I should do right here to get that to hold down gets a free pack of needles sent to them this week. What should I do to get these two fabrics to hold together since I didn't have the stabilizer there? Hurry up, type fast. First person to say what I'm going to do. Yeah, you guys type slow. How should I get these fabrics to stay together as if they were fused? I gotta realize that you don't hear me for a little while. There we go. Carlene. Oh, Amy. Amy beat you to it. So Amy gets a free pack of needles this week. And this is what we're going to use. This is our temporary water-soluble stabilizer in a bottle. And now look at that. It's as if it was fused. And do I have to wait? No. You could wait for it to dry, but you don't have to. Sew down until you reach the end. Stop with the needle up. Lift. Pull off the guide. Plant your finger. Spin the fabric around. Make sure that the thread is on the right side of the guide. And the guide is that little wire in the zigzag opening. Bless you, Tinkerbell. She's sneezing. I don't know where she is, but she's sneezing. This is the Satinedge foot for those of you who've come in late. And this is April 21st of 2022. If you are new to my show, this is Fabrically Speaking Live. I am healing my fingernails right now. Look at you guys. These are my nails. I'm so excited. Okay. This one had a rough day yesterday. But you can see the guide wire connected to the white guide. So when I say the thread needs to be to the right of that guide, that is what it is going to be resting against. And that guide wire holds the thread down and it won't let it come back up. And that's why I don't have tunneling on the fabric's edge. If you were to try this with any other foot, you would not have the same experience. It's the only foot in the world that behaves this way. It eliminates the need for a serger. Now I feel the need to push. So I do what? What do you do instead of pushing? Increase stitch length whenever you feel the need to push. Just think, I'm not in labor. I'm not supposed to push when I sew. Increase your stitch length instead. Once you see the fabric feeding or the fabric advancing, shorten that stitch length back to what you had it set at so that your stitches remain uniformed all the way along your napkin. It's okay that you left off the word based, Carlene. I have never done that before, so I think I'll do that again. I gotta get past this spot. Increase stitch length when you feel like pushing. So I felt like pushing, so I increased the stitch length. And now it's feeding. Shorten it back down. Good job, Brenda. I may do that. I may start doing that. I'm trying to figure out what games I can do for you guys for merch. And I'm going to develop some t-shirts so I can give away t-shirts when we're live. And what do you do after you lengthen the stitch? And I'm going to love this napkin. I have to make more now. It's be good for summer barbecues. Yeah, can you see barbecue sauce all over this lime or mint green? Would have been nice to have a heart on both on opposite corners. Yes, shorten it back down. All right. It's kind of not fair because not all of you can type as fast as the other. Anyone have any suggestions besides bingo? I looked into that and it's just too much work. What kind of game can we do during the live where I can give away prizes? Go all the way down to the corner and stop with the needle. In what position? Uh-oh, see, it didn't quite get hot. I didn't have enough there, so I'm going to do that again. Isn't it nice to know that you can do that? There's probably fusing there. I just didn't iron it fully. So I'm awkward here. Oh, that's funny. I might feel like that, Amy. Go all the way down until you reach the corner and stop with the needle. Always up, but we're going to go back. Don't just turn the corner. Go back up again. Make sure you're on the fabric. Then lift. Then push off the guide and turn. That extra step of going back ensures that your stitch you won't end up with a loop on the corner. This also applies for sergers. If you're a serger sewer and you want to turn a corner, you increase your stitch length on the corners. I used to be a dealer of sewing machines, and when we would teach napkins, everyone was super stressed because as a demonstrator, we never knew if it was going to turn without getting stuck. And I went, well, what's causing that? And what was causing that was stitch length needs to be lengthened just for a little bit on the corner, and then you shorten it back down. Works on all machines. Anytime you feel the need to push, lengthen your stitch instead. All right, now I'm getting punchy. Must be coming up on 2 hours. It is. I am so not reliable, consistent. I am reliable, but I'm also consistent. But I start to get goofy at the 2 hour mark. I'm almost done with this napkin. Satin stitching all the way around. But if I were to just throw this in the wash, it's very likely that the fabric would start to fray within the zigzag stitch, as that's just how it is. A zigzag stitch is like a really long stitch on a straight stitch. They're weaker than more stitches per inch. So even though the stitch length is really short, the width of the stitch is exaggerated. It's big. So I'm going to do a straight stitch through the satin stitch. It's going to actually make it look different than the satin stitch looks right now. Predictable. I'm going to try really hard not to hurt myself at all this week. It's so pretty. My daughter's building a house, so she won't let me make anything for her. She's like, not till the house is done, not till the house is... We have nowhere to put it. But I'm just anxious to make her something, and she loves mint green like I do. It'd be nice to make her something like this. So for those of you who are watching, I'm reading the chat, which is 3 feet away from me, while sewing. And I'm not having to watch that because I can feel the fabric's feeding as I'm cradling it. Do you have to adjust the tension of your bobbin? No. You can just bypass the tension. You wind your bobbin when you're winding the woolly. You want to bypass the tension. It'll stretch it. You want to keep it loose and fluffy. The looser and fluffier the woolly nylon is on the bobbin when you wind it, the easier it will be for it to be fluffy on the backside. It's like, do I have any woolly nylon in here so I could show you? I barely ever use the overlock machine anymore. Okay, so I'm going to tie a knot. Those of you who have a serger, you may know this little trick. If you don't have a serger and you want to make sure your stitch is secured before you cut, and you can lift the foot, pull off the guide, and kind of pull the needle thread out a little bit to give it some looseness. And then take your fabric and flip it over. And put it back under. Then pull the thread back, but you got to pull it back up past the tension. And then pull that thread so it's tight. Get it back in that thread guide. And then sew a little bit. And now you've really got a secure ending there, and then use a straight stitch to tie a knot as well. And I'm also going to go all the way around to the side of that satin stitch. I need to move the guide in more, because it looks like it's not going to be where I want it. And now I can go around really quick. And now it's doing what? What is this called? This is called edge stitching. Stitching on the edge. There's no fabric to the right of the foot. And that makes it an edge stitch. If there was another piece of fabric over here, it'd be a top stitch. Coming down to the corner. Sorry, I got batting fuzz floating through the air. And stop with the needle down, lift. Now, doesn't that look like a serger? It does, doesn't it? Thumbs up if that looks just like an overlock stitch. Actually, it's a little neater. So that's going to keep the fabric from shredding, but it won't keep it from shredding inside of the satin stitch, will it? Something's tickling me. Whoopsie. Oh, my first whoopsie of the day. This is me at full speed. And this is my posture. I'm resting on my pad. My other hand is resting on the table. Shoulders relaxed. Elbows down. Letting my body rest when it doesn't need to work. Come all the way down to the corner and stop, because it's a straight stitch with the needle down. Lift and turn. And place the guide so it's off the edge and continue. So you can see it doesn't add a lot of time to add that straight stitch. Would gray block work to stabilize it? What's gray block? You want, I don't know what you're talking about. If you're talking about fray check, it won't last. I love it when wash hands comes up. So you're probably trying to get clapping hands, but you got wash hands. And then it doesn't give you the image. It just says wash hands. I have no idea what that, I want to know what that one looks like. When you consider, if you were to hand wash your napkins, it wouldn't matter. But anytime it's going to go into a wash, maybe it's going to end up with a pair of blue jeans in there. Worse, a pair of men's blue jeans, and the guy's 6'5", you know, heavy blue jeans just tangling up the fabric. There's just about nothing to stop that fabric from starting to fray in there, unless you lock it in with another stitch. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to lock it in again with another stitch going through the actual stitch. However, you could just do that from the beginning. Sew a straight stitch underneath it if you don't want the straight stitch showing on the top. But I actually think it's really cool looking. Clapping hands. Yay. I'm almost done. Yay. No. It's 4:01. And it is April 21st of 2022. Okay. My thumb's sore. I'm like, what can I do with a owie thumb and not feel more sore when I'm done? Because I always want to play with the Octi-Hoops. I'm like, I can make a napkin with my eyes closed. Done a lot of these. I'm now going to do another row of stitching, but I'm going to do it on the other side. And you could actually use a different color thread to add a nice little accent to this. You can see that even though I sewed it upside down, it is perfect on this side as well. And you can kind of see a little kind of bumpy, that's the actual fabric in there, like kind of already unraveling. It's just a really, really ravelly fabric. This would be comparable to, what is that fabric? Taffeta. If you've ever tried to sew taffeta, you know what a nightmare that can be. So now I'm going to move the needle over. And if you can't move your needle over, you can also move the guide closer to the needle. I want to go a little bit more. It's really nice to have the ability to adjust both the needle position and the guide so you can really position your needle exactly where you want it. Now I'm going to gently push toward the foot to encourage it to stay against the foot because this is a bump. But I'm not pushing down and I'm not pushing away. I'm pushing toward the foot on the left-hand side. And that just ensures that the needle will stay right along the edge. And then you end up with this look. Isn't that neat? I just love it. I love that look. Isn't that pretty? What do you guys think? Thumbs up? Would you prefer just the satin stitch, or do you like having the stitch run through the satin stitch? As you go around a curve, you can stop with the needle down in the stitch and lift and turn as you manipulate your way around. I don't use needle down that often, so I have to really look for the button. Okay, once again, zoom, zoom. And this is my body position. Not doing that, not pulling through, pushing toward the foot. Needle down, lift. You like the thread running through as well? I'm going to have pictures in the school for you guys to see it better, because the cameras are never as good live as they are without the internet feeding the video. Do any of you have a question? What do you guys want me to do next week? I'm thinking summer is coming, and what could we enjoy? You could also use this same technique to make your dog a cute little scarf. Elbow down, shoulders relaxed. This is me saying it to myself because I was starting to lift my elbow. You lift your elbow, you become wobbly, and then you don't sew as accurate. Pushing toward the foot. Keep your elbow on the pad. My hands are too clean. Slippery. I'm going to stop there because I want to take a picture of it before the stitch runs through it and after. Now you don't have to worry about this coming out at all. You can toss it into your washing machine and know that your napkin will stay intact. This is a great thing for a bonnet as well. If you have babies that need a baby bonnet, being able to have a fabric that's lightweight like that, but has just the stability as if it were lined with batting inside. Hi, Lori. Turmeric. I'm eating a lot of turmeric. Putting it on your... I actually have trigger thumb right now. I bruised the bone in here. I have these turmeric gummies that I'm taking 2 a day. And then I just, I never stop. Rolling stabilizers is a burden on that. Grabbing things, picking things up, all the things I tell you guys to do. Make sure that you rest into it, stretch your hands the opposite direction. But there's nothing to stop you from hitting your hand on something and bruising the bone. And then the tendon is not entering and exiting properly. So I got a little bit of a trigger thumb. It's embarrassing. You're back to lifting weights and sewing. Good job. Yeah, we should have our weights here and go, okay. All right, now it's time to sew some more. I hope you guys enjoyed learning how to make napkins and having a little bit of a twist to it. If you like this video, go ahead and hit that like button. And if you've yet to subscribe to my YouTube channel, I sure hope you'll do so today. And if you want to see all the close-up pictures I keep talking about and the pictures that the other members in the chat have been mentioning that they're going to be posting of their work, be sure to join my free online school, create.clarerowley.com. The link is in the description below the video as soon as I'm no longer live. It is 4:09 on April 21st of 2022. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. I love you all so much. Bye.